Hey folks, had my first live session from the studio last night. That was the chair, not me. It was great fun. I learned a few things about Cubase not wanting to play ball, obviously while something else is using the microphones. So there was a couple of things came out of the chat, I suppose. There wasn't a lot of chat apart from myself, but there's a couple of things that came out regarding people's own feelings and things about playing and just talking about issues, etc. they have. And one came from a good friend, and she was saying about how she doesn't play anymore, and she's got crowns in her teeth, etc., and she's got wobbly teeth. And that's what kind of prompted me to do this very, very quick video. So I'm going to try and keep this really, really short. And my wife said after last night's video that I waffle a lot. So I'm going to try and get to the point. And my point is that I have got loose teeth. When I had started playing the trumpet, maybe about, wasn't that long. I was fairly besotted with it, so it may have been as many as 6 months. It might have been as little as 6 weeks. I'm not entirely sure. I decided that the following summer, or that summer, whenever it was, I would play cricket with my friends. Scotsmen playing cricket, wasn't going to go well, and I ended up with a cricket ball in my mouth. Hence, following weeks were cemented teeth, very bruised lips, lots of tears about, will I be able to play trumpet again? And my dentist, Mr. Todd, now retired, did a fantastic job of getting everything back together. But obviously in later years, so I'm past the golden 40 now, things like dental strength and all that type of stuff starts to deteriorate anyway, so I was kind of already in a back foot with this. And over the years, I have had various issues with my teeth. 99% of them, apart from that one cricket event, have been my own undoing. And also, being a young kid at college and trying to do the highest notes ever, etc., etc., without the greatest setup, using loads of pressure, I had a horrendous cut on the left of my top lip, pretty much where the inside rim was, or the mouthpiece I used back then. And it never bled, but I was severe enough that it would scab over, and I would be out of action for a minimum of like 3 or 4 days. Then be back on, ramming it back on the face, etc. You know, indestructible, stupid teenager, stroke young 20-year-old. So as time went on, I found that my teeth would be hurting. Sometimes after some seriously long gigs, my teeth would be loose. And to this day, or right now, I can still lightly move my teeth. It's not something I enjoy doing. Top and bottom. And because of that fateful cricket event, my bottom teeth are all out of line. If you're to look down on my teeth, my bottom teeth kind of go like this, where this side here is the left of the front four, far left, and then the one just left or centre there, they start to go back. So for that reason, I kind of play slightly a little bit to the side, and that's where I used to get my pressure cut. So you can see how all this sort of stuff adds up. Now, to get on with it and not waffling, I was talking last night about pedal tones. Pedal tones are a really, really, really good concept in terms of protecting the teeth. Good friend of mine, fantastic trumpet player all round, composer, arranger, Mr. Ryan Quigley. He passed on a golden piece of information, an image which pretty much says or demonstrates, you know, between your teeth and the mouthpiece, which is metal, and your teeth are kind of bone, you've got skin. And you've got to ask yourself, what's going to lose when you start adding loads of pressure in there? It's going to be the skin, okay? And not to get too heavily into how the whole embouchure works, etc. If you start clamping your lips between the teeth and the mouthpiece, any embouchure strength that you try to achieve, or any abilities that you've learned, they start to become pointless because you can't actually control what's going on here. You know, you can blow harder and harder and harder and harder, and all that's going to do is just get this buzz part damaged. And I've had a broken buzz here as well. That was no fun either. Not being warmed up enough, blowing too hard, etc. Maybe a bit of pressure as well. Clamping that aperture between the teeth and the mouthpiece. So how do I get around my wonky teeth, for want of a better word? Well, I spoke briefly last night in the Maggio technique, and that has really saved my bacon. I hope Mr. Mike Lovett doesn't mind me sharing. When he gave me a lesson, a fantastic lesson, he went into some detail about an injury that he had when he was a young player. A total accident, nothing to do with anything silly whatsoever, and how he came back from it, etc. So it's not that the Maggio seems to be a cure-all for everything, but certainly in terms of protecting what we've got, and we've spent a lot of time working, trying to achieve, it really, really does tick a lot of boxes. So the way I protect my teeth from not getting damaged is really trying to think about a forward motion in my playing. And last night I mentioned, and I have mentioned in the Maggio videos before on the YouTube channel, about the support mechanism. This support mechanism here, just kind of where my rib cage is. And like I said, that's like my general support area, from the bottom of the register all the way up, even through the pedal register, etc. And we modify that, like I've said in other videos before, with our tongue shapes and things. And that's quite important. If you can get a handle on this idea of minimal pressure, there's never no pressure, otherwise a trumpet would like fly off your face. You still need some type of seal there. And this brings me on to something that Larry Miligiano has come up with, and I'm not sure if it's entirely his idea or not. I'm not nicking it. I swear I'm not nicking it. I'm telling you where to go and find it. Check out Larry's YouTube channel. He's got a fantastic Facebook page, and he is also coming out with a fantastic new compression system. Go and research that as well. I'll try and put a link to it in the video. And basically what he talks about is this thing where you put your finger over the end of your mouthpiece, okay? I think it's auto-focusing crazy. And that stops the air coming out. And all you do is put the mouthpiece on your face, okay? Just relax, lips together, breath in through your nose, and gently blow. I don't know if you can hear, there's a little bit of air just escaping around here, but it's basically a hermetic seal is what he calls it, and that's pretty much what it is. So trying to achieve that feeling and get used to that feeling and then maintain that feeling throughout the range, means that all of our pressure should be going forward in terms of where the energy is, rather than the pressure coming backwards into our face. You know, we've got like biceps here, shoulders, back, chest and everything. It's really easy just to pull the trumpet into our face. And it will get range up to a certain degree, and you might even be successful with that for a while. The harder you blow, the higher you might get as well. But in terms of the actual air doing the work and steering that air and controlling that air with the valve down here, our support, and the valve that I like to think of in my head as my tongue, etc., in terms of controlling the cavity and the speed of the air, all that goes out the window because we are forcing against this vice, this clamp of this mouthpiece against our face. So this is where we're going to the support mechanism, and that hermetic seal helps you feel that engagement between the support mechanism down here and the back of your embouchure. And that back of the embouchure, ultimately when the mouthpiece is open, is connected to the trumpet, the buzz starts, etc. We blow through the trumpet, we get a nice buzz and a sound, and hopefully we get our sound. The problem comes when we want to start playing higher. A couple of danger things can happen. You can do the smile technique. That's a thing for a different video. Always try and make sure your corners are kind of down. Corners of the mouth, incidentally, not one to digress too much. Corners of the mouth are where the corners of your lips actually meet, all the way in to where the mouthpiece starts, okay? So the corners aren't just down here. The corners in me, I hate doing this, I'm going to come right up to the close to the camera. And I've got a hairy beard. The corners come up. You can see all the way into there. That's what I consider corners, to the eye teeth. If you do get Maggio's study book, he talks about the corners all the way into the eye teeth, and that's where we're talking about. We always want that to be focused around the mouthpiece, okay? And if we're supporting properly and we're blowing forward through our embouchure, That's what should happen. The corners and everything should just nicely grip the rim of the mouthpiece. Okay? So when we are starting to go higher, this is where the misconcept or misnomer about blowing harder actually comes in. And I thought of this for a long time, and I had a really, really solid top G, even an A, etc. But it always felt as though I was working so hard. Too hard to get it, you know? I wasn't going dizzy or anything, but man, I was working so hard to get this note to come out. I knew it was wrong. It wasn't correct. So by learning why I felt like that, how to get around it, my pressure started to decrease and my stamina and my accuracy started to increase. And in terms of trying to step away from the pressure, technique, for want of a better word, you're going to lose a bit of range. You might even lose a little bit of accuracy because you're relying a lot more for the actual systems that we want to do the job to actually do the job. So by that I mean we have our support in place, okay? We have a nice relaxed embouchure waiting to receive the air from our support mechanism. And once the air is blown through our embouchure, we can then start to think about, obviously, like quality of sound. We can start to think about our range and articulations, etc. But the valve inside our head, the tongue, etc., and how that moves up and down. So if this is the roof of my mouth, okay, and this is the bottom palate, and the tongue's down here, the air's going out this way, okay, past my wrist. The tongue moves up, etc., like this. It's kind of hard to see, I know, because my face is in the way. Maybe if I do that there. Yeah, so the tongue's moving like that. And you can see this area here is getting smaller. So without actually blowing any harder, the air's got to go through this smaller space. Okay, now we can really get into the actual intricacies of how all this works, etc. And there's a degree of balance that you'll have to find by yourself when you do this. But by playing softly and gently and just working through the basic scale, whatever your basic register, for me, my kind of gear shift, if you want to think about it in terms of where my compression starts to really build from more being an area of support to actually trying to think about turning up the gas a little bit. And I'm not blowing harder, I'm just supporting the airstream a little bit more so that I can manipulate that airstream to make it faster through the cavity in the mouth to come out the embouchure here. And when the air's going faster, best analogy in the world, used to hear it when I started in brass bands when I was 12 years old. If you've got a hose pipe with no attachment at the end and you've got a finite stream of water, you're not touching the tap, okay? So you've got an open end of the hose, you put your thumb over the hose, end of the hose, and you gradually close that off. The water starts to shoot out, okay? Now, you've not done anything to that stream of water. All you've done is manipulate the space that that water has got to go through. And that space that you're manipulating is your, well, for me, the way I think about it, is my oral cavity, okay? Now, you might just have to support a little bit more as you go up, and that's the way Maggio theory starts to work, thinking about your support here and making sure that that's there. There's a whole bunch of other advanced techniques that modify this a lot more when you go into the realms of like Bobby Shue and Maynard Ferguson, and Wayne Bergeron's got some fantastic videos on this. Pretty much anyone you ask, they say, oh, check out the wedge technique. You really have to know the basics before you get into some of these advanced techniques, before you really start to try and manipulate them. I did this and I pretty much wrecked my chops like that. Bang. By blowing too hard, essentially, and not understanding the mechanics that are involved. So when we're starting to play a note and we think about our basic note, like a G, the amount of air that's going through the instrument there, it should really be the same amount of air that I'm using to talk with. It's not about taking a big breath in to blow through, okay? And again, that's the misnomer about what we need to do to make the trumpet really scream through the range. And it's not about that at all. It's about managing the air. And as we start to ascend through the instrument, so just going from a G, let's see, I'll try and make it as unpretty as possible, but I'm going to use support and I'm just going to change my tongue position, and we'll see what it sounds like as I go up to a G. I'm barely going to hold the trumpet, just going to hold the trumpet in my left hand. I've barely done anything, okay? So there's next to no pressure there, minimal pressure. I don't have any air coming out the sides, etc. The one thing I have got is a support mechanism here, and I'm using my tongue to change the speed of the air that's in there. And I can go higher. I can demonstrate that probably quite comfortably up to an E, or maybe even higher. Then you say, well, what about all the really, really like screamy trumpet sounds? And this is where we kind of look at the efficiency of our sound and how well we can get our vibration to be really vibrant and energetic, and then let the trumpet do its job. The one thing a lot of us forget, and this is where pressure really, really comes in again. Still do it, I'll put my hand up, is that we want to hear that sound back here from there. This thing's pointing out there, and our ears are all the way back here. Even with the biggest, craziest flares, you know, you're not going to hear what's going out. I think that the rough measurement is 70% forward and 30% back. So how do you try and get that sound? You blow hard, you know, and that does make the instrument vibrate a lot more. But you're working really, really hard, and then all of a sudden you find you're getting tired. All of a sudden you find that you can't quite hit the notes, or you're splitting notes, because you're putting a lot of effort through here. So part of the way to really, really turn down the pressure is kind of to have faith that it's all working as well. And this is where recording really, really comes in. Almost all of my students, my youngest starting about a year and a half ago was 8 years old. And getting these guys from him to my mature students all the way up to try and record themselves and get an idea of what was actually coming out the end of the instruments was really, really important. Because as soon as you start to turn the energy down, you start to turn the effort down. The trick part, like I was just talking about, is trying to maintain the excitement. But I'll guarantee you that if you are compressed, or supported is a much better word, if you're supported in the correct way, and you're using minimal effort to get the notes out that you want, and you're not gripping the trumpet too hard, etc. That's a kind of given. As soon as you start gripping anything like this, you're putting strain and force into your arms and your shoulders, like, I'm going to play trumpet. As soon as you start to just like relax, play into it, concentrating your focus down here so that you've got your support ready to go, your shoulders are nice and relaxed, you've got a relaxed breath inside you, anything can happen whatsoever, you know. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully it wasn't too general. The only way I can really explain it is turn the volume down, first of all. That's the first thing you've got to do. I've got a video, super easy warm-up. I think it's on YouTube. Pretty sure it is. I can certainly get it up if I don't. And I've got PDFs. Starting off the day, I'm just trying to get some noise out of the trumpet, okay? So I talked about like the conversational breath that we're using. Barely using any intake of a breath. In fact, I won't even take a breath and just blow through the trumpet. As soon as that note starts to appear, that's your embouchure starting to wake up. And all you got to do is take it from there. You don't need a lot of air to blow into a trumpet. The air's already inside here, okay? We're making the energy here. And this is just amplifying it and shooting it out the end. Okay, folks, if you want any clarification on that, please give me a shout. I'm really getting a new hunger for doing these videos. I'm going to post this one to Facebook. I'll get it up on YouTube as well. Any requests, please take them all. Sorry, I'll take them all, providing they're clean. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a good rest of the year. We'll see what happens with gigs. I'm itching to get back gigging myself, and part of that means seeing a lot of you folks out there as well on the gigs and the audiences, etc. It's been a tough time, and we're just going to have to weather it out. So get your practicing going, get out there, research, do your own research, find what works for you in terms of information, playing, think about it, you know. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, hit bell icon, all that YouTube malarkey, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.